The year is 2041. The world is broken, and not by just one war or one act of cruelty, but by decades of damage, greed, and climate betrayal that humanity refused to stop. What started in 2020, the chaos in Battlefield 4, was only a whisper of the storm that would follow. The 2030s, they were a decade of nightmares. Weather turned wild, rain came when it shouldn't, sun scorched cities like Judgment, seas swallowed entire nations. Governments collapsed, banks fell, hope evaporated. And from the ashes of nations, from the pain of the forgotten, rose a people who no longer belonged to any flag or any soil. They were the non-patrioted, the no-pats, 1.2 billion souls with no home, no allegiance, just one thing in common: survival. Among these billions was a journalist, the man named Kaivan Bashir, a writer in Doha who watched the world crumble with a pen in hand. He was curious, brave, stupid maybe. He wanted to tell the truth about the no-pats, to understand them not just as display statistics but as people. But finding them wasn't easy. Governments labeled them as threats, terrorists, criminals, media blacked them out. Still, Kaivan searched. And then the silence broke. A message came from someone named Oz. That name would come to mean everything. Oz, a mysterious figure, was the leader of the biggest group of no-pats, a commander in the shadows, pulling strings and building a quiet army. He reached out to Kaivan, not with fear or caution, but with purpose. But before Kaivan could even understand what this contact meant, Qatari police kicked down his door. The world had already made up its mind. Oz was a terrorist, and Kaivan, by association, was now outing one. So he ran. He ran from law, from comfort, from everything he knew. He boarded a boat full of strangers, no-pats who didn't have time to mourn the past, only time to keep moving forward. And for a year, Kaivan floated with them, across seas that used to belong to someone, through ports filled with silence and suspicion. At first, they moved cargo, food, medicine, people. Desperate humans hiding inside steel containers. But soon, things got darker. The boat, once filled with hope, now smuggled weapons hidden in pineapples. Guns for militias backed by Russians. It was no longer survival, it was compromise. Kaivan burned all of it. Until one day they were ambushed by American forces. Bullets flew. He was shot, but he lived. Wounded and shaken, Kaivan followed the survivors to Antarctica, a frozen wasteland that had become a battlefield. Why? Because it held oil. Oil that kept the no-pats moving. Oil that once was given freely by the Russians, until they changed their mind. Oil for allegiance, they said now. Pick a side, Russia or America. There were no third options anymore. The new Cold War was no longer cold. It was heating up like the planet around it. The world was on the edge, and the no-pats were the match. But even here, surrounded by ice and blood, Kaivan wondered, was Oz just surviving, or was he planning something? Enter Irish, a name veterans of Battlefield knew well. A soldier, a leader, a man who had already faced hell in earlier wars. Oz sent him to rescue the no-pats in Antarctica and bring them aboard the Exodus, a massive ship and a symbol of their wandering life. Irish arrived, heroic as ever, and brought them aboard. Kaivan, now tired and wounded, wanted no more stories. He dreamed of Cairo, of silence, of peace. But Oz had other plans. He sent Irish and his crew to a drowned city, London. What lay there was a package. No one said more. And then came Exodus, the short film. But we now know what led to that moment, what truly burned behind those images. In London's ruins, Irish retrieved a briefcase. He also captured Clayton Pekowski, a former ally. But Clayton wasn't just baggage, he was a bombshell. He claimed Oz was using the briefcase to start a world war. Inside it, secrets about an American satellite weapon, experimental and deadly, that was going to crash near Doha in just 36 hours. The Americans were terrified it would fall into Russian hands. The consequences would be nuclear, catastrophic, unstoppable. Irish knew this couldn't happen, but as Oz's aircraft approached, ready to collect the case, Irish made a bold move. He steered the Exodus straight into a Category 5 sandstorm. Lightning cracked the sky, waves punched steel. It wasn't just a chase, it was war on water. During the chaos, Oz's men attacked. A fight broke out. Irish's son was kidnapped, the briefcase taken. Kyvan, helpless but determined, tried to help. He even freed Clayton, who promised to fight. And when it came time to choose, Clayton sacrificed his life to save Irish's son. A moment of honor in a world losing all its soul. But it wasn't enough. The damage was done. A dying soldier, one of Oz's, managed to send the Satamite data before breathing his last. Now Oz had what he wanted. What followed was heartbreak. On one side, Oz, a visionary or a madman, depending on who you ask. A man who believes only war can create peace. On the other, Irish, a battle-worn hero who's seen what war does to the innocent. Two men, two leaders, two ideas of justice, but the same goal, freedom for the no-pats. Caven watched this all, pen in hand, blood still wet from his own scars. He wrote not just as a witness, but as a man now forever tied to this story. Irish, meanwhile, made one final call, one final message broadcast to every no-pat, every soldier, every ghost listening in the storm. The only way to stop this war is to get in the middle of it. 36 hours to Doha, get ready to fight. That's where we stand. That's where the story leaves us, on the edge of another war. One not fought for flags or kings or countries, but for existence, for the right to belong. Battlefield 2042 doesn't give us a traditional campaign. No cutscenes with medals, no scripted victories. What it gives us instead is a world that feels real, too real. A world where every multiplayer match is another page in this unwritten war. A war that we, the players, live and die in. It's controversial. A shooter with no single player, yet a story deeper than most. It's a risk, a rebellion, a shot across the bow of modern gaming. Some hate it, some love it, but none ignore it. Because beneath all the explosions of the specialists and shifting maps lies a story about what happens when the world turns its back on the people it promised to protect. It's not perfect. It stumbles. It frustrates. The gameplay, the balancing, the live service choices, all of them have caused anger among fans. But at the heart of it, Battlefield 2042 tells a story bigger than just bullets and blood. It tells the story of us, of our fears for the future, of climate collapse, of political games, of those lost in the margins. The no-pats are fixing, yes, but they are born from truth, from today's headlines, from tomorrow's disasters. And so we fight, not for KD ratios, but for something more, something human. As we log in, pick a side, and drop into the storm, we remember the words of Irish, not whispered, not hidden, but screamed into the fire. Get in the middle of it. Because in Battlefield 2042, the only way forward is through. And the war has only just begun.